guys, Jay here. Welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 71. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week and you stream every single night. How? Ow? Do you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I had a super aggravating hobby experience, and I decided to look at the Games Workshop catalog a little bit, or I guess the Warhammer community catalog, at some of the 30K stuff coming out. I haven't really been paying that close attention because I'm just not gonna get into 30K. It looks fun, it looks interesting. I've seen a battle report of 30K, and it actually looks like it has some really, really cool things going on in the rules. Particularly, there's a reaction phase where every time your opponent does something to you, you get to decide to take a choice, a selection of reactions, and I think that makes for a really, really interesting back and forth. One thing that I think is missing from almost all war games is a lot of movement, particularly with Kill Team. Kill Team is a game where movement is the most important part of the game, but you don't get to do a lot of it because, you only get 6 inches of movement per guy, typically. And then you're probably not even gonna take your whole 6 inches because you need to bounce from cover to cover to cover or else you'll get shot off the board. And so if I want more movement in a war game, the easiest solution is, you just add more inches to every guy's movement. But I think that is a really lame way to do movement because you'll run into the same problems of, I have 10 inches of movement instead of 6 inches, but I'm still just going to run 4 inches to that next barrel because 10 inches doesn't get me to the next piece of heavy concealing cover. But anyway, the 30K reaction phases are really interesting because you get to have extra movement in your opponent's turn. And so that gives you that dance that I'm kind of looking for because, you might move 6 inches out and then your opponent decides they're gonna take a shot at you. And so then you get to make another 6-inch move somewhere else or to try to bounce out of the way. So you're not really you're getting more movement in a really interesting way because it would be lame if you just had 12 inches of movement in your turn and so you just went boop, boop. But, if you jump out and then all of a sudden your opponent decides to shoot at you and then all of a sudden you bounce backwards and then in your next movement phase you move up a little bit, it just creates a lot more momentum and movement without just doing the lame thing of just making everything move a little bit more. So I really think that's an interesting way to have a war game, and I'm really interested to see because it's getting on to 3 years now, and so it might be time for 10th edition, Warhammer 40K 10th edition. And so I betcha they bring that reaction phase into 40K, which is great because it seems like a really, really cool thing. But this whole diatribe started with me taking a look at 30K things. And so I looked at the 30K helmet upgrade packs, which I've pretty much ignored because why would I care? But I decided to take a look and they're sort of interesting. I saw the White Scars helmets and I'm like, damn, those are some helmets. And so let's just take a look at these helmets. The White Scars helmets are gorgeous, especially because white painted well is just a really good color scheme. It's as bright as miniatures can possibly be. So, I guess you could spray paint them with the reflective paint that you spray on roadside barrels and stuff so that snow plows can see them. But anyway, white painted helmets with these really cool red markings and stripes and these plumes that they've worked in just a little bit of teal blue into. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Yeah, the White Scars helmets are great, but you might look at them and be like, yeah, they're beaky helmets, but they're not quite just beaky helmets. They've shrunk the eyes a little bit and stretched them. And so they almost have this one eye, like Sonic the Hedgehog, just one eye stretching across their face, and it doesn't make them look mean or evil, it just makes them look intense. And I think that's the perfect look for White Scars. It's a subtle little thing, but I really like it. And I like it a lot more than on the Praetor helmets. They actually have combined the eye lenses into one eye, and it looks a little silly, like a little bit of a Cyclops. But I love it on the regular helmets. And I think if you're a 40K White Scars player, these helmets would look so good sprinkled throughout your army. They're gorgeous. The one thing that is a little frustrating about these upgrade packs is that they come with 11 heads, 9, 10, 11, and 30k Marines are sold in batches of 20, which is it's frustrating for a number of reasons. I mean, I guess in theory, yes, you do need way more Space Marines for a 30k army, typically than you would for a 40k army. But I feel like they either should have sold them in sets of 20 so that you can buy 1 box of Marines and 1 box of armors, and then you're ready to rock. But yeah, it's a little annoying that they're sold this way. And another thing that's very frustrating is you get 9 helmets, 9 normal dude helmets, and then you get a Praetor helmet and a helmetless head. And that's super annoying too, because what if you want 10 normal dudes, no Praetor, all with the same helmet? Because a lot of people don't like helmetless heads because it's hard to paint, it looks different. And so this is gonna be a little frustrating because, if you bought 20 Mark III Marines, and you bought 2 sets of these helmets to put on them, you would end up with either a helmetless guy and a Praetor, or you would end up with 2 squads of 10 guys and a Praetor, and you would just have to in-game say, oh, that guy's not a Praetor, he's just a normal dude for this game. They just needed to throw in 1 extra plain head, and then these would be fine-ish. But yeah, annoying. But I love the beaky Marine helmets, and I don't think you're stuck putting these beaky helmets on Mark 6 armor. I think you could sprinkle these in throughout, because throughout the Heresy, everything was getting messed up and damaged and broken, and so it's not impossible. I mean, Mark 5 Heresy pattern, even though Heresy pattern was just the Loyalists cobbling something together in the midst of the war, and so it doesn't really make a lot of sense that Mark 5 has such a specific, unique look that's different to everything else. It should look like a hodgepodge of everything. But I think the hodgepodge of everything look is actually a little bit more interesting. And if you look at the cover arts for the Horus Heresy novels, the Marines you see there are usually a hodgepodge with a couple of Mark 6s running around and a couple of weird tubes and things going on inside of their armor. So I think it makes a lot more sense for your models to be kind of a mixture of stuff as opposed to, oh, my whole army is decked out in perfect Mark III or Mark V or Mark VI. So yeah, White Scars, huge thumbs up. They look sick. And then getting into the Sons of Horus, they are good. They look good. I think they are interesting. They're very different and unique. They look a little bit mean. They have definitely a Darth Vader thing going on. Especially since a lot of them have like Darth Maul horns. I love that in 30K, it's not really, I mean, the Horus and the Traitors are the villains. They're the bad guys. A lot of them are, doing shenanigans with the Chaos Gods. But it's a civil war because you're not supposed to necessarily be like, there is the good guys and there is the bad guys, because there's totally, in the books, there's totally an idea that maybe the Emperor is wrong, maybe his ideas are destined to fail, or maybe he was planning on murdering all the Space Marines when he was done with them, just like he murdered all of the Thunder Warriors when he was done with them. So in the world of 30K, the Horus Heresy, it makes sense for you to be on either side of the conflict. And so that makes it really funny to me when the bad guy helmets look like bad guy helmets. But they look really, really good. I think they're neat. I think they would look really good. I feel like these are more helmets that you sprinkle in as opposed to having everybody in Sons of Horus helmets. And then looking at the Emperor's Children helmets, these are nice. They are Mark 6 beaky helmets with like a fancy little crown on their head because, the Emperor's Children have to be a little special. They have to be a little fancy. I think these are perfectly good helmets. The weirdness with these comes from there's 3 different styles of nose holes on the helmet. And I think that is weird. That's like, some of them have the holes here, some of them have the holes on the sides, and then some of them have like actual just holes drilled into the side. And it's almost like, when they were designing these helmets, the designer couldn't land on something that they really liked, and so they just decided to give you 3 and 3 and 3. And so these helmets are also fine. I think these would be a sprinkling as opposed to just outfitting the entire Emperor's Children army with them. Also, these are specifically Mark 6 heads, and so they sort of maybe should go on Mark 6 bodies. It's hard. I love the Praetor helmet. The Praetor helmet is very unique. It almost looks more Mark III or Mark IV. No, Mark III definitely. Mark II or Mark III, where they have, probably Mark III where they have the extra armor. And so he's kind of got a normal helmet and he's got an extra layer of armor on his face. And I really like it. I think it looks good. And then we have the Dark Angels. And the Dark Angels look great. They just have very knightly Knights of the Round Table style helmets. Oh, and the helmetless head for the Dark Angels looks awesome. It looks like some guy from Lord of the Rings. Ah, that is a really good. The other bear heads are fine. They're all right. There's nothing to stand out, but that guy looks cool. Like I could believe that he is one of the Dark Knights of Caliban, the Black Knights of Caliban. It all fits in well with the lore. That head works really, really well, and I think these knightly helmets look really, really good. I could see, I mean, these would fit so well into 40K or 30K. Yeah, I would say these guys are probably on par with the White Scars helmets. They look really, really good, and they look appropriate, they feel right. They're a little Emperor's Children-y, where they have the 3 different style of nose holes, but I think it sort of works, especially since the nose holes aren't just holes, they're representing like the breathing holes that were in knight helmets. And so I think it looks more appropriate because it looks like they're there for a very specific purpose, as opposed to the classic Mark VI whiskers. Yeah, these heads are neat, and it's interesting. 30K is interesting compared to 40K because 40K is a lot more do whatever you want, whereas 30K is a little bit more like everything kind of exists in the lore, and you still have the option to do whatever you want, but there is some very specific lore that you can find and pull from. Sort of. I mean, you still have to read all those gosh darn books, and you have to dig and find those little nuggets, and every Space Marine chapter was between 100,000 and 200 to 250,000 Marines, and so if there's if you play the Ultramarines and you have 250,000 Marines, what are the odds that your 40 dudes are a perfect representation of anything? Like, you could probably paint them as the camouflage, whatever the Ultramarines were before they became the Ultramarines. They had like camouflage armor, and so you could totally be just us 40 dudes who never met up with Gilliman, and so you never ended up repainting your armor. But yeah, 30K is unique, 30K is interesting, and everybody who is playing 30K or looking to get into 30K, good luck. It looks neat, but not for me yet. Although I do own Horus. I have the resin Horus, and I want to do something with that. Although my plan for him was I kind of wanted to do the like old school, what did they call themselves? The white Horus, the Lunar Wolves. I wanted to do classic like white armor Lunar Wolves, because then he had green armor during the Sons of Horus days, and then I guess I don't remember if they repainted their armor black or if their armor turned black because they were the bad guys. But yeah, that was my plan for that model. But very, very interesting. But in things that are way more interesting, Star Wars Legion. I love Star Wars Legion so much. And Star Wars Legion got some new stuff. The IG series Assassin Droids Operative Expansion. This is one expansion that comes with IG-88 and IG-11, which are very different from one another. They're pretty much identical. IG-11 has a little bit of a different torso, but that's just some coolness. Really what I wanted to talk about was the leaked, I guess they weren't leaked, but they showed off some in progress or work in progress models that are coming to Star Wars Legion. A fulcrum version of Ahsoka from Star Wars Rebels. People have really been wanting Ahsoka to come to Star Wars Legion because she's one of the most popular Star Wars characters that exists. And it's a little weird that she hasn't come to Star Wars Legion yet. I think Star Wars Legion is in a little bit of a weird spot where, Star Wars battles are super cool, but everybody wants every single main character who's ever shown up in any Star Wars movie. And so but the tricky thing with war games is you want people to buy the regular troopers and vehicles because you make a lot of money, because if you have to buy 2 or 3 squads of clone troopers and maybe 2 swamp speeders, that's gonna make you a lot more money than everybody buying one Commander Cody, or one Commander Gree, or one Commander Fox, or all these characters that aren't so different from one another. So I totally understand why we haven't seen every popular hero from Star Wars come to Star Wars Legion yet. But yeah, it looks like Rebels Ahsoka is coming, which is great because that means that I'm gonna get to take Ahsoka because I play the Rebels. And I don't know if this is true. This was on the article that showed off just an article written by a fan that showed off the screenshots that they grabbed of these work in progress models. But they said that there is going to be a Grand Army of the Republic version of Ahsoka coming. I don't know if that's real or if it's wish listing because everybody's been wanting a Grand Army of the Republic Ahsoka for the entirety of Star Wars Legion, even before like they were even doing Clone Wars stuff. But it does look like there is going to be a Star Wars Rebels version of Ahsoka, which is neat. And for the Separatists, they showed off a work in progress, Asajj Ventress, which it won't happen like this because it would be dumb. But it would almost work perfectly as a 2-pack because Ahsoka and Asajj are kind of like yin and yang characters in the Clone Wars TV show. The Star Wars, if anybody is a Star Wars fan and you haven't watched the Clone Wars, you're probably missing out on some of the best Star Wars to ever Star Wars because the Clone Wars show does a couple of things that are super smart. It's not a show that follows one character. You'll actually have different characters be the hero of that episode. And so you get a lot of very different perspectives. And the show is an anthology. So stories just happen. They don't take place in chronological order or in orders that make sense. Like you'll get like 3-episode standalone arcs that you can just watch and you don't have to worry about what happened before or what's coming after. And with those different arcs, looking at different characters, sometimes you're looking at Obi-Wan, sometimes you're looking at Anakin, a lot of the times you're looking at Ahsoka, and a lot of the times you're looking at Asajj Ventress, because Ahsoka is a Jedi who's not that good at being a Jedi, and Asajj is a Sith who's not that good at being a Sith. And so you kind of see these characters progress through the Clone Wars, and the spoilery things happen, but it'd be cool. I mean, it won't happen, but it would make sense for them to almost come in a box together because they're very similar characters. They both also carry 2 lightsabers each, which almost makes more interesting parallels between the two. But yeah, it makes sense for them to be coming out in a similar time span because they're very similar characters, and it'll be interesting to get them. Asajj makes perfect sense as an operative for the Separatists because that really was her role in the show. Like she wasn't really a general like Count Dooku or General Grievous. She was more like an assassin, or she would be sent in to like murder people or enforce stuff. But yeah, really cool. Can't wait to see those characters come to Star Wars Legion. I can't wait to see all the characters come to Star Wars Legion. What they need to do to create some big hype around Star Wars Legion is way back in the day, in like the pre-2000s, Games Workshop took all of the heroes for 40K and they put them in a box called like Heroes of the Empire, and then they had another one that was like Villains of the Empire, and it just had like 8 heroes. It would be really cool if they came out with boxes that were just Star Wars heroes, and it was just a big, maybe one for each faction, because there's so many characters from Star Wars. And then you can just buy like the heroes box and it comes with everybody who hasn't come out yet. Which that list is getting shorter, but there's still, Star Wars is so huge. There is so much. And of course, like we could even get characters that nobody cares about except for like weirdos. Like you could get Dexter Jetster, everybody's favorite character from Attack of the Clones, Dexter Jetster with his diner. But at the top of this video, I mentioned that I was very aggravated and frustrated, and that is because I stripped the paint off of some miniatures. And I hate stripping paint. It's not fun. I don't like to do it. It's always frustrating and annoying. But he fell off. I bought some more Terminators off of eBay, and these guys had super crazy caked on paint. But I always feel pretty safe when I buy metal models because no matter what, I can get paint off of metal models because I can use really harsh stuff like acetone, which is what I used on these guys. And the acetone lifted the paint right off. But the paint was so thick, it turned into a rubber skin that I had to poke and peel off. And one of the flaws with metal models is they kind of have a grit and a texture. And so in every little crevice, the paint kind of got wedged in there and I had to poke at it with a paper clip and scrape at it. And it was horrible. I think all said and done, I probably spent 2 hours getting all of the paint off these guys, that might sound good, but like, it's unacceptable. I don't like it at all. So I'm gonna be trying a lot of stuff because this is a huge box of old hammer. There's probably like 50 models in there. And boy, it's got some weight to it because it's all lead. And all of this stuff has to get stripped, and I ain't spending 2 hours every 5 guys. And so I have an ultrasonic cleaner coming to me in the mail and a bunch of different goos to test out because I need to find something that basically just makes the paint fall off. I'll do a little paintbrushing, a little scrubbing with a toothbrush, but on these guys, I gave them a bath in acetone, and then I washed them, and like 95% of the paint came off, and then I gave them another soak in acetone, and then another brushing to get the last 5% off. No good. So I'm gonna try on an ultrasonic cleaner. I'm very skeptical because an ultrasonic cleaner, it just vibrates a little. I mean, it makes sense in my mind. An ultrasonic cleaner is good for like getting face crud off of dentures and glasses, but I don't know exactly what it would do to cured paint, but I'm gonna try it. I bought a very cheap one, so I guess if it doesn't work, it's because I bought a cheap one, but we'll see. I'm gonna test out all sorts of different ways to get paint off of minis because boy, do I need help getting all of this stuff ready. Some very fun videos coming up in this box, let me tell you. I mean, you guys see these vehicles? You see this rack of Crayola crayons that is this old school missile launcher? Some really cool stuff. But yeah, I had a heck of a time getting the paint off of these Terminators, but it was actually kind of worth it. I like the old Terminators. They are pretty much identical to the new Terminators, but they're old and they're crunchy and metal and I like them. And of course I need every loadout, so I already have 5 with the guns and power fists, and so obviously I needed another 5 to have all power claws. And so I'm very excited to have these guys. A few weeks ago, I released a video showing off some of the old Space Marines I bought, and I posed the question to the audience of how should I do this? Should I do a full perfect retro army? Or should I build them as a perfect retro army and then paint them up using all of the new modern cool things that are available to painters nowadays? And I think I'm leaning towards that second one now. And the comments overwhelmingly said, retro models, the modern paint scheme. So I think that is what I'm gonna do. But that does lead to an interesting question of what do I do about the bases? Because the base sizes, I mean, everything was on a 25mm base back in the day. And even like, these Terminators are kind of hanging off, but they are supposed to be on 25mm bases. So it's all of a sudden it might become a very confusing thing where it's like, okay, when I'm putting together these models, I'm gonna pretend like it's 1995 and I'm gonna do a perfect job assembling them that way. But then I'm gonna glue them down to 2020 bases. And then I'm gonna paint them using airbrush and oils and all of these modern techniques. So I can't decide exactly what I wanna do. I'm probably going to do modern bases because I think it would be really funny one day to do something like maybe take these to a tournament or some sort of an event, and they should be on the appropriate bases for something like that. And they probably would look nice on modern bases. But yeah, all sorts of weird questions like that pop up whenever I'm dealing with old models and modern things and those two things meet and which one wins out, the new idea or the old idea. But yeah, I can't wait to get that ultrasonic cleaner, give it a go. I'm praying that the paint just falls off because that's all I'm willing to deal with. I don't like standing over the sink and just scrubbing and the paint's not coming off. Oh, it's infuriating. But there's nothing else you can do because you can't get this stuff anymore. It's been discontinued for like 20 years, so. That is what I have been working on, and that is what I am up against. And it is adding quite a bit of stress to my life. But you know what doesn't add any stress to my life? That's right, the Eons of Battle Patreon. Over there, we have a Miniature of the Month Club. This month, we have the futuristic Elven Warlocks. We also have one extra episode of EOB a week, a live hobby hangout every Friday where we all hop into a Discord server and just chit chat. We also have voting on what models I paint live here on YouTube and more. It's the best way to support us, so head on over to Patreon to get even more Eons of Battle. We also have merch, link in the description. That is what I've been working on this week. Some just drooling over the really cool Star Wars models coming out and scrubbing old models with toothbrushes. But speaking of scrubbing old models with toothbrushes, that's what I should be doing right now, so bye-bye.